Maitland Local Court were dealing with court cases this week, but what were they all about? There are about 180 people listed to appear this week. There were at least a couple of fresh custodies, but what happened that saw police refuse bail and the court dealing with these cases this week? Of the 180 people this week, there is public information about 3 of them, because both the police issued a media release and the media published stories. The first relates to the August 2024 fatal crash on Cessnock Road. Yes, there was actually 3 fatal car accidents around that time in August along Cessnock Road. This case relates to the 5th of August crash. Police issue a media release late in November last year, basically saying that they had charged the driver of the small truck with a number of traffic offences, including dangerous driving occasioning death. Well, the small truck driver had their case listed at Maitland for the first time this week. They were excused from appearing on this occasion. Media published stories about the case. The case ended up being transferred into Newcastle Local Court. The second case we heard about was the school teacher charged with possessing child abuse material. Police issued a media release back in December 2024 when the school teacher was arrested after a police investigation. The school teacher appeared in person. Media published stories, however, there's a small twist. The school teacher's defence solicitor successfully argued for a non-publication order before the defendant left the courtroom. On this day, there was a camera person waiting outside. In my opinion, it's tricky to avoid the cameras exiting Maitland Local Court. Once you leave the safety of the veranda, there's some distance to cover to get to the car. So on this day, the defendant stays inside the courtroom until the court makes a decision about the non-publication order. In my observation, it seemed quite a sudden decision to submit the application. The defence describes the application as hamburger with the lot, meaning non-publication of everyone's identity: the defendant, the complainant and any witnesses. There's 3 journalists in the gallery watching this being argued, plus the camera person outside. But it's something the defence solicitor said, and then what happened afterwards, that got me thinking there was something else going on. The defence solicitor said something like, there's people here that might take some liberties. You could first assume they were referring to the journalists who were tapping madly away at their laptops. However, they cover court cases as a job and would know the rules. Plus, I read their stories and in my opinion, their stuff is within the rules. So why would they start not following the rules or take liberties with this case? Perhaps they're referring to the rest of us who are packed into the gallery like sardines. We wouldn't know the rules as well as the journos. And the non-publication applies to not just the journalists, but everyone else, including yourselves, outside the courthouse. So when this case finishes up, the journalists make a quick exit. I'm assuming they're getting ready for an interaction outside. There's still options for the journo to tell the story without identifying any of the people. After they leave the gallery, it becomes clear that there's a couple of people also in the gallery that are part of the school teacher's entourage. They could be family members, so it's wise not to identify them or take photos, because identifying them identifies the school teacher and therefore breaches the non-publication order. The school teacher and their entourage leave when I notice a small group of people hovering, waiting to leave after the school teacher. I assume this group are here to observe the case, but I have no idea what their connection is with the case. Maybe the defence does, and that might be a factor in the sudden non-publication order. It's just my observation, but there's some sort of dynamic going on in the gallery with these people. Anyways, it doesn't matter who you are, the non-publication applies to all of us. By the way, the media go on to publish stories, including the defendant leaving the courthouse with a blurry face. I remain, and the gallery is almost empty now. I'm actually there for a completely different case. I'm seeking information about the Christmas Day guy. See my Christmas special if you want to know how it went. By the way, there are other cases involving school teachers in the Hunter Valley, and they don't have non-publication orders in place. So the school teachers' names and images of them leaving court are usually included in the media stories. The third case we heard about was on Friday. By the way, after Wednesday court day, we have this epic storm later that evening. Turns into a bit of a disaster. There's many still without power when I'm making this days afterwards. So don't make it back to court for the rest of the week. Basically, like a lot of people, just dealing with life. However, the police issue a media release after they arrest the man on Thursday after an investigation into a fire that damaged the Lake Macquarie Council building back in November 2024. The alleged arsonist appears as a fresh custody on the Friday as the police refused bail. Court went on to also refuse bail and listed the case here later in January. He appeared here because he was arrested at Maitland Police Station. However, it's from Lake Macquarie, so I'm surprised it wasn't transferred into a Lake Macquarie court. It may well be transferred later if the DPP elect to prosecute into Newcastle, where it may end up in the district court. I understand from the stories there was allegedly a lot of damage done to the council buildings. Anyways, this week we got to hear about 3 out of the 180 or so cases. There is public information about these 3 cases because the police issued a media release and the media published stories about what happened inside the courthouse. As for the remaining 177 cases from this week, I can't find any public information about them. Until next week, bye!